Saw this verse about what is bondage, wherein ignorance was mentioned to be the cause of bondage, and ignorance about what? Ignorance about one's own nature. So, what is one's own nature? That's yet to be revealed. But then it was also revealed when what is this self was being revealed in this previous verses. It was said that that which lights up everything else, but that itself cannot be lit up by anything else. So that which enlightens everything else, objectifies everything else, and in turn, that which cannot be objectified or enlightened by anything else. So that is what was said to be nature of Atma. And so this I being of such a nature, the Swarupa is not understood only because of ignorance. The ignorance is about the Swarupa itself. So that's why it is a bad deal. If we do not have money really, and we undergo the suffering of someone being in poverty, it is still justified. But if you are a millionaire and it is just that you don't have the password to your account, or you do not know that you have such a balance, because someone who has left a will in your name, maybe the executor has not informed you, saying, "Oh, boss, you have this much of money with you." So finally, you will still be kind of afflicted with the problems related to poverty. That's a bad deal. If the Swarupa is happiness, if the Swarupa is infinite, if the Swarupa is that which is limitless, and if the Swarupa is that which alone lights up everything else, enlightens everything else, objectifies everything else, cognizes everything else, in that sense only it is all-knowing. So if that is the Swarupa, and if the Swarupa is not known merely because of ignorance, certainly it is bondage, and it is certainly not a blessing at all. So that's why this bondage is being discussed about, because bondage is something which is felt. That's why the student asked this question as to what is bondage, because he felt that he was bound. So that was the reason the question had come. And it's important to understand what is bondage. And Shastra gives this pointer that bondage is because of ignorance about oneself. So that's what is the main reason as pointed out by Shastra. This was the last thing we saw. And the next one is, so he said, the student asked, Ko nama bandha, that is what is bondage. Then he's saying Katamesha Agataha. Because for everything which have come up there, wherever you might have seen, Swayambhu is basically pointing out to the self, the Atma, which one is ideally. So many a times, when once you know these concepts and once you're through with this knowledge, when someone says that in front of you there is a Swayambhu Linga or Swayambhu, any Murti, one actually relates to this Atma itself. The one is actually Swayambhu. Self is Swayambhu. Everything else other than that is because of this. One is the ultimate cause, and everything else is because. So that Brahman, since the Aikya part is going to come later, that's what we are looking at. So I'm using the word oneness. So that oneness, that ultimate, and everything else is because of that actually. So that is what was said in the previous verse as well. And now the next question is, Kathamesha Agataha. How did this come about? So there should be this cause and effect, right? So what is mentioned here, if one has to forget Swarupa, there has to be some kind of a reason. And when you get into the process of what, obviously, the question of mind will be involved, because mind is the one which is mistaking the original, and it is getting clinged to something which is not original. So that's where the problem is. It is about the identity, self-identity crisis. When they have to discuss about a psychological order, they have to come about saying, okay, how mind is getting affected, what is affecting the mind. So this has to be spoken about. So this power of Maya is brought into picture. And as I mentioned earlier in one of the session, Maya has two powers. One, Avarana Shakti. Second one is Vikshepa. So when Avarana happens, Avarana is covering that original. So I gave this example of files of a client in CA office, where if you have 10,000 files or 1 lakh files, normally you will have to label them in order that you will be able to identify it when you want to pick it up later. So if you have identified them as, okay, this is client 1 out of all 100 or 1000 clients, you have said this is client 1 and this is for year 1. Okay, and you are talking about 20 years of your service to these clients. So obviously each client will have 20 files, at least one file for year. So now if you have very nicely labeled them 1 to 20 for each client, and similarly client A, client B, client C, for example, A1, A2, A3, A4, similarly B1, B2, B3, B4 up to 20. Now, if someone goes about, he picks up this client B, this file, and just puts a white paper on that, on the labeling. First thing is you don't know what that is. So this stage is Avarana. Covering the original is Avarana. So the one who's going, now if you send one of your articled assistants, so in a CA form, we have people who pursue CA and they are called article assistants under a CA. So if you send one of these assistants saying, oh, please pick up this B2 file and get it. So this person will go and only to find that B2 is not available, because obviously it is covered by someone. Actually, obviously you cannot see. If the files are kept in an orderly fashion, probably one can understand, okay, I can't see 2, so probably this should be the one. So that is, one can infer it. If things are completely in chaos, the way it is in the world today, obviously even that cannot be made out. And it has got a white patch on it. So it becomes very difficult to identify where is that B2, okay? This is the first thing what Maya does. The second thing what Maya does is, that is beautiful. That's amazing actually. It will say Y16. The moment you put Y16, this gentleman who goes there to search the file has no chance to get it actually. Absolutely no chance. At least if it was just covered, there was some chance. But when the second thing happens, that completes the Maya cycle actually. That's an amazing cycle. Once it is Y16, this guy will go find everything other than B2, which he wants actually. So Maya does the second thing also. So here what is mentioned, Akhanda Nityadvaya Bodha Shaktya Spurantam Atmanam Ananta Vaibhavam Samavaranotya Pratisakti Resha Tamamayi Raharivarka Bimbam. The first part is said, the Avarana part is said here actually. In this they have used this celestial example of this solar eclipse where sun is covered. So sun is the tattva of light actually. It can never be covered, right? But then fine, that can also be covered due to a reason. Of course, even clouds can cover it actually. That is also there. Apart from that, during an eclipse, moon comes in between, so we can't see sun. So it's ideally not a shadow, but then that's how it is presented in astrology at least, that there are always names given for different concepts. So for this, the concept is that Rahu is the one which is covering sun. And in lunar eclipse, Ketu is said to be the one which is covering moon. So in astrology, we use this in Vedic astrology. So the way Rahu covers the sun during an eclipse, Maya also covers the ultimate when it is in its spell. So when in the spell of Maya, one finds it very difficult to identify that B2. Forget that it is B2. You are not able to reach out to B2. You are even told that it is Y16. So that's where the problem happens. And when these two things happen, world in front of us is absolutely gross, quite believable, and as reported by all the 5 senses. We validate everything through our senses, and anything that our sense tells us, we believe. That is how mind is tuned. That is how intellect is tuned. Intellect, of course, when we come, maybe it is a little bit better than the faculty of mind, you can say. But mind is tuned to understand things only through perception, only through touch and other senses actually. So anything that is available to these five senses, that becomes gross. And you can even see the flaw in this actually. One of them, I think, he's not here, I think, in the session today. He was mentioning that how come, one can believe that Brahma Satyam Jagat Mityam, this statement, believe in the sense even to, or accept or believe or whatever you can say, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mityam. So Jagat Mityam, this Mithya is, in between Satya and Asatya. Mithya is, it has got another status, we can say. It is neither Satya nor Asatya. So how can we say Jagat is Mithya? It's very difficult because we touch, we feel, and the emotions are amazing based on everything that is happening here or not happening here. So amazing it is. So if it is so amazing, untangible, how come one even think that this can be Mithya? Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithyam. That statement he was bringing out at that point in time. If you analyze more and more about the power of our own senses, you will find that there is world beyond our senses as well. There is world which is available, and at least in science you can study this. I'm sure this would have been revealed in many other tattvas as well in our shastras. At least these days we have many such inputs available, so we can use them. For example, we have ultrasound. Ultrasound is there, everyone knows, and there is an instrument which can sense it and can show that yes, there is this ultrasound happening here. And most of us would have seen this ultrasound sonography, and the entire sonography tattva is based on this ultrasound only. Now, if there are things which is available, if there are such sense objects available, which I gave as an example, there are many other things as well. So if there are such objects available, and these are not even available to the human sensory perception. So we have to understand that definitely, even amongst things which is available in front of us, we do not know everything. Our five senses are the basis on which we believe world. World is there for sure. This input is given the first-hand information by our five senses. Now, when you see the capability of these five senses, now you understand that, oh God, this is not possible. I am now reminded of one story, which was so long back when I was a child. By the way, I'm just remembering this. There was a parrot which was pet actually in someone's house, and you have husband and wife, and this husband used to go out for whatever, I think trading or whatever. He had to go out for several days and come back, and probably wife or whoever you can give as a name was doing certain activities which was not appropriate, perhaps stealing, whatever it is, something, or you can say that some servant maid was there who was kind of, or whichever way you can say, she, whichever servant was there, and that person was stealing, for example. So this parrot used to report that when that master came. So it used to say that, okay, this is what happened. So master used to believe that and pursue that with those people, saying, I believe this is what happened, why this happened. So over a period of time, that person who was kind of the culprit and the victim as well. So that person said that, okay, now I have to do something wherein I have to prove that this parrot is lying. So what this gentleman does is, he makes a kind of artificial rain for the entire 10 days when the master was not there. So this is a simulated rain actually. So obviously parrot cannot think beyond that okay, someone is creating or someone is simulating an environment. It cannot think beyond a particular level, but of course it can see things what is happening, and it can speak. That's the reason this example is given. So when the simulation had happened, obviously when this master comes back, he asks, okay, what happened, how are things? It said that, oh God, it was raining all this 10 days, it was raining. So whereas the master knows that the entire city never had rain at all, and there was no report, and you can check that with anyone else also. So that's where that other person was successful in proving that the does not really perceive things properly. So what it says may not be right. So that way it was proven that, okay, it cannot be really relied upon. So that kind of a simulation happened there, and the parrot kind of became a victim to that. So similarly, there are things which we perceive. And if perception gives us this sure, tangibility of this particular world, the same perception when analyzed will become very weak when so many things that cannot be perceived is presented. And so many things that cannot be perceived is presented in the form of some sensors, some equipments which can sense. I think for light we have something called lux meter. So light also can be quantified in terms of some numbers, like the way we kind of measure sound. Sound is in decibels. Light is measured in the form of lux, LUX. There's something called lux meter. So you can switch on tube light and then keep the lux meter. It will give you some number. Switch on another tube light, it will give you extra number. So that's how light is measured. So there are instruments which can be used to prove that there are some more sense objects around us which our default setting of human sensors cannot sense. This itself is enough clue for us to rethink about mind as to what it can bring as sense to us, sensory perception to us. It can, to some extent, yes. To a larger extent, where you have many other things which it cannot perceive, it doesn't even bring. There is one more possibility in between. What is in front of us, it may not be showing the exact thing to us. That is the third thing as well. Sensory perception can do all these three. It can just perceive, give you the sense of what is outside. It may not be able to perceive at all as to what's happening outside in terms of the sense objects. And it may give you a different perception of what is in front of you. All the three. I think that's where this mirage falls as an example, where you see water. That is how your sense is trained to see water, but there is no water there. It's only because of total internal reflection. The way the light's reflection happens because of different temperature. Because of varying temperature layers, light tends to reflect and refract. So this happens. Since this is happening, we understand that, okay, since reflection or refraction is happening, it has to be water. So that is what we think actually. But why? That is because our senses, they are trained to understand and perceive things in a particular way. They continue doing that. How that can be removed? When we go in a desert, if you see mirage, you have to immediately bring this idea of mirage, saying that mirage is only a tattva, it is not real water. So don't proceed that side to quench your thirst. So knowledge comes very handy there, where you do not get affected by that sensory perception. So only when the sense object is really there and mind is giving this kind of input that it is there, you start pursuing it. Okay, this side is Maya, you can say. Now knowledge is basically Shastric knowledge about oneself. Now this case we are talking about something other than oneself. That itself is enlightening. So when we know, even from our 6th standard, 7th standard lesson, that in desert these things keep happening, and it's only because of the tattva of light, heat, whatever it is. And do not persuade, do not go towards it and think that that is water. All the way, supposing you see mirage 5 kilometers from the distance you walk all the way and you only wasted time, because it's going to move even farther away. That's what's going to happen. So some of these things, when you really analyze the validity of sensory perception, then you will understand the limitation of these sensory objects. But before that, before inquiry, if you take the default setting that yes, I'm a being, I'm a biological being, and I can understand what is milk, what is water, what is this taste, what is that taste, and I can understand what is iron, what is copper, anything in periodic element, at least 10 or 15 of them, I can immediately say this, aluminum, this by looking at it. Cobalt, just by looking at it, I can say, oh, this is what it is, so I'm happy. So I can sense, and my sensory perceptions are intact. And what my sense gives, what my sensory organs bring in as an information, I just stand by that because they are great. If this is the conclusion, one has to only analyze a little bit more about the strength of these sense organs and understand its weakness. So the moment you understand the weakness of sense organs, obviously then we are more open to knowledge, open to concepts. So that way, some of these things like there's ultrasound and there's light as well, no? Infrared and ultraviolet. So these also create problems, right? So there also we do not perceive. Of course, through the effect we can always perceive them. That's a different thing. When you have boils, and we perceive them through ultraviolet, that we can say. So when you analyze the strength of sensory organs, we understand more about the weakness they have. Then only we start questioning about the validity of different perceptions, different signals that they bring to us. So one thing is what you see in front of you, and what you are trained to see it as all the time. It's a different thing when what you see is covered. So obviously what you see, if it is covered, then you cannot see the original. This is the first problem. Second problem, I think, is discussed in the next verse. We just read that. Tirodbhute swatman yamalatara tejovati pumana anatmanam mohadahamiti shariram kalayati tatah kamakroda prabhuthibir amum bandhana gudaihi param vikshepakya rajas guru shaktir vityati. So this word vikshepa. So I said avarana and vikshepa. So these are the two words. The first one was talking about avarana. This verse is talking about vikshepa. So how vikshepa comes in? It says that the rajas tattva, see, tamas tattva is avarana. So we said Maya has triguna, right? Sattva is knowledge. Now when avarana has to happen, which guna of Maya is used in covering it up, it is basically tamas. Tamas part of Maya covers the original. Now there are some more gunas which have to also work, which have to also play. Rajas is also available at its disposal. In cricket you have so many balls, no? This ball, that ball, and this spinner especially, he can bowl leg spin, off spin, googly also in between actually, and you have so many, carom ball, so many things are there actually. So each one is a ball coming at you actually. The first ball covers the original, and the second ball gives a perception it is something different actually. So that is vikshepa. So Maya first uses its tamas store, whatever is available in tamas as a guna, just to cover the original. Job done, very happy. Now these guys can uncover it, over a period of time, so create more problem and go to the vikshepa part. Okay, fine. Where is Rajas? Now Rajas is here. Use it. Now cover the original as well, and also make it to look different. So param vikshepakya rajas urushaktir vyatyathi. So it's rajas, that amazing power of rajas, it brings in to project it as a different thing actually. So the projection part is what is world, what we see. We see world because of this projection by Maya, and this projection is because of its rajas tattva. So naturally you can understand, the file example also what I gave, and this also what, if you happen to be a batsman and you really face a spinner, you will really understand this pain. You will think it's going to be off spin, and then it comes as a googly. Flipper is also one more thing. It just comes straight, and googly is exactly the opposite side also. You will feel the problem when you really assume the role of a batsman. But I think we are all batsmen, being a samsari all through. Many times we get balls, which are like googlies only. So this is what it is. Some of them, going at 170 km speed, 180 km speed, and googly, flipper, everything comes. That's what samsara is. But one has to only understand that luckily these are not real. But that's where the problem is. How come I'm able to face the ball? It's hitting me. I'm given LBW also. All this will come into picture. But finally, one has to really understand that it is Pindanda. It is not there actually. That's where Shastra is taking us towards. So two things. The world in front of us is there, and bondage is there because of ignorance. Ignorance about whom? About oneself. That's the reason there is a chance at least that we can overcome that, because oneself is not quite far away from oneself, right? So there has to be a time when definitely that oneself has to know oneself. Luckily, there is no great difference. Otherwise, the way people say, go to Mecca or go to Ganga or go to, thank God they don't say that go to moon, then you will have self-realization. Then no one has a chance. So with great difficulty, now we have left, this Chandrayaan, and we have left this Vikram lander there. Now, if that was the mandate, there would have been a long queue saying, I want to become spiritual, I want moksha, so let me take in the next mission. It doesn't happen that way. I think even Sunita Williams, she went up and then she had to come down again as well. No, there is nothing, no heaven outside. It is just oneself and oneself. Oneself is away from oneself only because of this ignorance. There is nothing other than this ignorance which separates oneself from oneself. Since this separation is just oneself from oneself, one has a chance to claim this oneself by overcoming ignorance. This is the reason we have this chance, because the distance is not very far. Yet, knowledge-wise, the distance is quite far when we really think that the world is gross, and it is very difficult to believe that this is not there. That's how it is, no problem. But luckily, Shastra gives all the inputs. Wherever the winding was happening, it is already noted down where the winding was happening, like an umpire. Okay, fine. Like you watch a kid, wherever it goes and it makes mistakes. And then finally you say, you committed this, you kept this here, you forgot, you just see this, it's done. So like that, Shastra is able to account for these changes because it's ultimate. It's from the system itself. That's the reason it is able to bring that point of mistake. It says that, hey, you committed a mistake here, and then you are going all around the world to seek happiness. The problem is here, bondage is here, and bondage is because of this ignorance, specifically pointing out saying about yourself. And it is coming about because Maya has this role, this has this power. Again, it's your own power, but then it is there, it is working. And first power is to cover the original, and second power is to project it as different thing. So these two are the major things due to which we see world and these five senses work the way they work. So this is what is basically said in these two verses. I have not verbatim, gone through these pages that way. I have only spoken about the content in terms of the spirit in them. If you have any specific question, I open the session for questions now. This was a little longer explanation, but I just let myself go freely because Maya and these areas are the real thing where one has to be guided well, and one has to really inquire these areas a lot. Because this concept is very subtle, and one has to really dwell on these concepts. And ignorance being something to do with cognition, one has to apply mind, one has to validate what is being said. If it is not appealing to mind, straight away you should say you don't understand. Simple as this. Simple as this. You can never fake that you understood and then go to the next line. You can still, because as you go, you will have some more doubts and again you will get it clarified. You should keep proceeding. But do not stop, do not get upset that everything is not getting clear at one go. You can ask questions and we have enough time. At least we can say we have 10 years. So if not more, at least we have 10 years. So we don't need to worry too much. But you can also instantly get knowledge. 1 second. That is also there. So it just depends on the strength and energy that one brings in to this pursuit, followed basically with sadhana. The sadhana chatushtaya, shamodama uparamastitiksha, shraddha samadhanam, viveka, vairagya, samadhi shatka sampatti, mumukshutvam. We cannot forget. The sadhana chatushtaya, as mentioned by Guru, which again is everywhere mentioned in Shastra as well, cannot be forgotten. Along with sadhana chatushtaya practice plus inquiry, definitely one is supposed to succeed as guided by Shastra. So with that, I'll open the session for questions. Shikhaji, yes, or Manishji.
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir, in fact, when we look at the life, life is all about these flippers and googlies and so life, those are the actual things which happens in life. then how it can be mithya?
that's what we are explaining. That's what we will find over a period
Because
of time.
these are
Uh,
day-to-day realities.
yes,
You fall
absolutely.
into, so like life on a daily basis. I think there are hardly any straight balls, or there are hardly anything playable balls. There are there are most of the time non-playable balls.
Yes, agree. See, see the way Shastra takes us through. It's a fact. That's what Shastra is saying, because from its vision, it's able to say that actually. But from a person who's already subjected to this Maya, it becomes difficult to overcome that, because you're already subjected to that. So whatever we speak from our perception and our perspective. So Shastra is only trying to change the very perspective. It is trying to change the perspective itself actually. That is what is going to help us. So as you see later, I mean, you will find it that it will completely change the perspective. Then you will understand, oh wow, how come I didn't know this? So this would be the kind of understanding over a period. But yes, when we take ourselves to be this body, mind, sense complex, this anatma, definitely this problem will be there, because that is how this body, mind, sense complex is trained to behave. It is trained to behave that way. It's programmed to behave that way. Though will is available, choice is available, but only when will is used to its fullest potential. Wherein, for example, if someone is attending this session, it's just will. Will is the one which is bringing them for this class. Simple. So the person is trying to help himself to come out of issues, the perceived issues, small or big, whatever it be. The will is giving way, actually saying that no, there is a way out. This can be resolved. So the will is so potent, and when it becomes so big, when you use that will to such an extent, that's what brings in this pursuit and this knowledge. Knowledge completely removes this problem of samsara, because it falsifies samsara. That's what it does. It just falsifies. And when Shankaracharya says that Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithyam, Jivo Brahmaiva Na Paraha. Jivaha, this Jiva is Brahman only. That Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma, what we thought, is this Jiva. Same, this Jiva is that only. Jiva plus ignorance, rather, Brahman plus ignorance is Jiva. When ignorance is dropped, it's already Brahman only. It is that Brahma Tattva only. It is just that because of self-ignorance, one understands to be this. For example, I mean, if you don't know you have money in your bank, obviously you will go and ask for CA funds of other companies. No. It's just because you do not know you are a millionaire already. This is where some of these simple examples come very handy. Most of the times, the problem we have are created problems. Problem actually do not exist. They are created problems. So this is why Shastra has to come and say, boss, for a created problem, how can you give a solution? If there is a real problem, for example, if you have a thorn in your feet, one doctor can remove it. And he can apply whatever some antiseptic and say, boss, you're clear now. 3 days, walk, run, do what you want. But if a guy thinks something is inside, but there's nothing inside, every scan has proved there is nothing inside, but this guy still says that no, mujhe to chubra. How can you provide a solution to this? If there was a real thorn, you can remove it. But thorn ही नहीं है, बंदे को लेकिन problem हो रहा है, तो कहाँ से remove करेगा? ये doctor, no doctor can remove this. No. So the gross solution cannot be the solution. The guy has to be told the truth, and to say the truth, there will be some ways of telling him the truth that has to be revealed. So where the problem is really there you can remove the problem by saying something. But if the object of problem itself is mithya, that's where Shastra comes and says, boss, the one on which you are complaining actually is not there. Now you tell me what is the problem you have. So then you will get really foxed, saying, yaar, kuch to problem tha kam se kam, abhi ye problem ho, kahan se problem ho raha tha. That can happen. But then Shastra has to say what it has to say. It has to say what is and what is not. That's why this self and the not self, it has to talk about it, because that's why we keep confusing. It has to talk about it. So the way one can overcome the problem is to understand what is the reality and what is that which is changing, who is the one who is affected, the person who is affected, is he a changing person or a real person, or is there another person who is behind this changing person? So these are the things which the Shastra is opening up as concepts, and it will make you identify with the right one, so that one claims that Swarajya. One claims that Swarajya back, saying, oh, I am that ultimate, that cannot change. I am that which is everywhere. I am that which has Maya as a potential itself, which creates world. This is the understanding after going through Sadhana Chatushtaya, followed by inquiry, guided by Shastra. This is the outcome. There is no doubt in this. But Maya being what it is, it will definitely give the perception that world is, problems are. That is what Maya's job is all about actually. That's the reason you have to account for Maya, take care of Maya, then you reach yourself. This definitely happens, and the questions are valid.
Bhaskar sir, one question from my side.
Yes.
What is the impact of karma in the whole thing of Maya? Because I understand one is, our perception about world without being conscious is one thing. And what about the carried forward karma and its impact on Maya?
See, normally we understand everything easily through cause and effect. So, any action will produce a result. Okay? So, this is from a material understanding. Any action will produce a result. And the result can be something which is already fructified or yet to fructify. For example, when you coil, those days we used to have this key stuff, right, for clock. So, we just coil it 12 times, and then maybe for 12 hours it will go. It will keep on uncoiling. That's how we use. That's what we use for the gradual rotation, and that's how we used to see time earlier. Before the electronic clock was there. So we coil it. Some actions immediately unwind. Some actions unwind after a longer time. If cause and effect just happen in front of us, we don't have any problem to relate. If you slap a person, he slaps you back. Job done. Cause and effect understood. If you slap a person and the same person slaps you after a week, still you can understand the cause and effect. Yeah, tab mere mara tha, ye bande ne abhi mujhe maar diya. Okay, you can still understand. If you slap a person after 1 year, there is some guy who's probably just wandering on the street. He just comes and slaps you. Here the problem starts. Yeah, I was just walking there. I was not doing anything. This guy slapped me. Or slapping is more easy example. This I can say 1-to-1. It can also be like you just go there and there is a stray dog. It bites you. Of all the people, it bites you. So when this happens, when the time is longer, when the distance is longer, one cannot relate. Our mind cannot understand this. Our mind can understand, I shouted at you shouted at me, I understood the cause and effect. This is what mind is trained. This is where I said, mind has a problem, it has a limitation. But if mind can understand that, no, 2 janmas before, I had done this to this guy and I'm getting it back. So, then if it is told, and if it can understand and have memory of it, it can very clearly read it, okay, I'm getting it back, I should not worry too much about it. So, cause and effect works this way. That is what karma is.
Kalyanji, please
to explain that only, we have this Purana, we have Mahabharata and Ramayana, where they have spoken about not one particular yuga, they have been bringing in characters linked from another yuga as well. See, Hanumanji, he was there as well as Ramayana both. Always there actually. That's not the right example. But if you see, like for example, the Shikandi was already available as I think Amba in the previous Janma, but within Mahabharata. But the person, when he takes up another Janma, that person comes with certain vengeance or certain grudge to, taking that as a goal. In corporate office, we have a goal. this much of sales we had achieved. So this person comes with the goal saying, I have to be the cause of killing Bhishma. That's all. Very clear. So karma is simply cause and effect. It's nothing more than that. But cause and effect, when unbound, after a long time, if it is 1 year and then 10 years, then one janma, that becomes little incomprehensible. That becomes a little difficult. This is the problem we have.
Bhaskarji, just
Well,
just one
slap,
moment.
it's very good actually. Yeah? You slap someone, beg them that they should slap you right away. So that you don't get confused later actually. That's what is karma. Simple.
Okay.
Kaushik, I don't know whether I answered you.
Yeah. Sure, sir. Yes.
By the way,
got it.
Kaushik to the session actually, he's joined today. He's my ex-colleague as well.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Is there any other hand up? Was there anyone who wanted to ask a question? So,
Sir,
yes, please.
Manish again. I think the concept wise it is, I think it is very confusing. I feel it is like lost in somewhere.
Yes. See, you are right. You have to also. I think that's what is, the churning time. See, when the churning happens, again, I gave this example earlier also. Okay, from milk to curd, it's nice. From curd to ghee, when it has to come, so many transformations happen. First of all, you need to take the butter out. When the butter comes out, I think the buttermilk is enjoyable and butter is enjoyable, and then you can make a ghee out of it. But the in-between part, churning part, no, is not that greatly enjoyable actually, unless really maybe you can make a lassi out of it. But the in-between part is little confusing. And we are at that middle actually. When Maya is introduced, churning has to still happen and there will be a lot of confusions. It's quite natural. But one has to overcome this. There's no doubt, it is confusing. But as we inquire, as we see more examples, as we ask more questions, things will become very clear.
Because
I want to give this example.
One more thing which I wanted to, in
please,
this
go
entire process of churning, at times what happens is Brahman looks unreal and Maya starts looking real.
That's the power of Maya, no? That's the power of Maya. Yes, yes, everything is fine. You won't believe. I had copied some of these concepts and but I didn't want to send it to people actually because they'll be totally confused. I didn't send it. But someone has written so nicely that anyone can convince that Vedanta is completely wrong. So nicely that person has narrated. He just narrated his state of mind, but very coherently he has brought in the concepts, saying, okay, I think we're just kind of fooling ourselves by saying there is a Nitya Vastu and you are that. Just to, kind of fox ourselves out of this world of problems and, kind of a imagined anesthesia, not even a real anesthesia. Something like that. I'm just using this word. But someone has written a thing like this, but I didn't want to send it to everyone. Someone who's trained already, I can, send to them for reading, but otherwise they'll get confused. You are right. This stage, definitely there is a problem. It's not easy. But the example I'll give you, how this, ignorance can create a problem. That example of 10th man, where, 10 guys, crossed the river, and they had a system that every time we cross the river, we will count so that we know, okay, all of us are intact. So whenever they counted, the person who was counting never counted himself. So every time they found that, only 9 guys were there. So definitely they had this problem that, okay, one of them was lost. This sense of bereavement was always with them. And when they were crying, there was a guy who came and said, well, why are you crying? And they narrated this, what has happened, and that's why we are crying. So obviously the person looking from outside objectively can make it out saying, boss, you are able to count yourself. So the 10th man was not to be discovered in this, it was not to be invented or it was not to be created. The 10th man was already there. The 10th man just didn't know himself, didn't count himself. So if someone asks what ignorance can create, what ignorance about oneself can create, this is what it can create. This kind of a dukkha, it can definitely create. The 10th man has to know that he has to just count for himself as well. That is self-ignorance. If you account for yourself, you know yourself, automatically the problem is gone. Dukkha is gone. So that indication is very nice. That's the reason that example is given. And what is it? Aham devadatta asmi, tvam dasamosi. They say this like they know tattvamasi, they say tvam dasamosi. That is, you are the 10th man. So that is a revelation. So that revelation, in that knowledge, ignorance just goes off. It cannot stay at all. That's how ignorance also behaves when knowledge occurs. Ignorance can never return. It goes out for good. That is also true about Maya. When knowledge happens, Maya just gives in. Just gives in. But until then, Tamas and Rajas will play so much that it will never allow Sattva to come to that extent. This is the reason the Sattva Guna is kind of, praised so much, that all Sattva practices are prescribed in our lifetime in terms of food, in terms of activities, in terms of thinking, in terms of yoga, exercise. Everywhere you see, whatever is given as do's, they are mostly Sattva based. And whatever is said to be avoided, the don'ts part, they're all Rajas and Tamas based actually, mostly Tamas based. So to increase Sattva in one's, physiological order and psychological order, most of the systems have given practices on a day-to-day basis, which they can follow to keep the Sattva better. So this is why in Sadhana Chatushtaya, Viveka was said to be the first thing. Viveka is of the mind and intellect order. There you have to fix it for saying, oh, there is one thing. Even from a concept perspective, if there is the omnipotent thing, that has to be only one. No, it cannot be two. It has to be just one. If it can be limited by another thing, then there is no such thing as omnipotent. No, that has to be the only thing that has to be in its own, right, existing, without depending on anything else. That is the tattva we are looking at. Nitya vastu vekam brahma tad vitariktam sarvam anitya. So the nitya vastu vekam we are pursuing, that definitely has to be that which cannot be kind of, even touched or reached by anything for that matter. That is what we are pursuing. In that journey, obviously, when ignorance is, pointed out as the problem, one has to only understand how this ignorance comes about and go ahead, along with the guidance of Shastra. Any question from anyone? Because these areas, I'll not be, hurrying up from now on, and hurrying up in the sense, henceforth, even one verse maybe will be discussed in one class. So it all depends, how much you go through whatever is in the print as well, and then form your doubts. It will help actually. Take as much concepts as possible from the book itself and ask questions. It will help. Because even when I read it again, for me, everything will be clear. I will never be able to make out as to what can be the doubt in someone else's mind actually. To some extent I can, because of my own journey I can. But my journey probably would have already skipped some of the doubts, because naturally I would have been knowing some of them. So those doubts I may not be, thinking from others' perspective. So it's very important that people ask doubts. Yes, Sonia, please.
So Bhaskarji, when you say that there is a thorn and then only we can take it out. If there is no thorn, then but we feel there is a thorn and it can't be taken out. So can we conclude, what the Shastra is trying to tell us, which probably we don't, we get confused with, is that, if I have a problem at job, it's not real. If I have a job, it's not real. If I have children, they're not real. If there's a problem with children, that's not real. If I have a body, that's not real. If I have an issue, health issue, that's not real. Is it that what the Shastra is saying?
No. Okay. If I rephrase your question, you're saying that, okay, the problems are all from various quarters and those quarters don't exist. That's what Shastra is saying. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's what it seems to be. When we say that, there is a thorn, but actually it is not, and we are just imagining it. Because what are the thorns? These are the thorns in our lives. And that's why people are sad or unhappy. And that's what's troubling us. Otherwise, what is it that is troubling us other than these things? Everybody has one problem or the other in these spheres. And either relationships, or job, or money, or some kind of satisfaction. So these are the thorns. So are these thorns not there and we're just trying to pull them out?
Correct. Then exactly, you're right. You're right. See, as I said, when one travels so far from oneself, where this Jagat appears and one takes that to be real, one has traveled so far actually that the unwinding takes a little longer, because from childhood we believe whatever is gross is there. And even in science, when one tries to understand what is atom, 99% of it is space. So 99% of it is space. It is just that the particles are held together through energy, which is giving a form. So this very form, which is actually giving the validity for the existence of things around us, is questioned when you go deeper into that. When you inquire deeper into them, you see hollowness everywhere. You see hollowness everywhere. Anything, when you take it to its ultimate, it fizzles off actually. Even at a material level, it is fizzling off. Can you imagine that 99 point whatever percentage is space in an atom? And we think that when when we see gross space, where there is no planet, what you can say, for millions of light years, so we think that is space. Forget alone. There is a similar space within every atom, and we see something like so gross and we believe it. Yes, the senses do believe it, because that's how the sense organs are designed to be. So it perceives. So what they say now, what you see, that becomes real. What you sense, that becomes real. But many a times, again, this is where I think the dream world experience is very useful. We project a world, we project so many characters there actually. It is very difficult to unwind during the dream process that those characters are unreal. It's very difficult. If at all you had a chance to get into someone's dream world and address the dreamer saying, hey, you are dreaming, and the snake which you happen to see is unreal, and your fear is not legitimate, because you are dreaming and it's your creation, and fear is also an outcome of your own creation. So forget the creation, falsify the creation, automatically your fear also will go off. If at all a person had this kind of access to the dreamer would be happy. He will get knowledge and he will be able to falsify his objects, and by falsifying, automatically his fear in dream also will go off. That is not possible. It is not possible to tell him during the dream. But when he wakes up, normally from outside, no one needs to tell him saying, that was a dream snake, and he should not, search for the snake below his cot, ideally, normally. So he himself can falsify it. Shastra points out some of these examples as pointers to say that to falsify world, you don't have to do anything. It can be as easy as falsifying your own creation of dream. A waker clearly falsifies the dream world, because in waking, you have this knowledge that, okay, the previous one was definitely not there, and you understand it. When one understands Shastra, they go to the next level of understanding. That's where the word Turiya is used. So we have Jagrata Avastha, Swapna Avastha, Sushupti Avastha. Sushupti is dreamless sleep. Beyond that, when one has to talk about a state where one consciously knows that what is in front of you is not real, you are able to falsify what is in front of you. That is Turiya. And you know oneself. What is, that's all. What is, you know. That is what is Turiya. So Shastra brings this example of dream, and this comes very, very handy. And in dream, really all of you would have experienced what kind of objects we create. Amazing objects we create. And these objects are only available to us, and the outcome of these objects are also available to us only, not the next person, not the person sleeping next to us, unless we kick them. That's a different thing. These objects are only available to us, and seamlessly, as you wake up, that is knowledge actually. As you wake up, the entire world is collapsed. Exactly like that. That's a real pointer one can understand. Exactly like that. When you understand Aham Brahmasmi, not Aham Jagat Asmi, Aham Jagat Api Asmi, that's a different thing. I am also the world because I am the one who is world also. But Aham Brahmasmi, the moment you understand I am that ultimate, the cause from where everything else is because actually, in that knowledge, this gross world as we see, unvalidate through the 5 sensory perceptions, gets completely invalidated. It is so easy as that actually, when knowledge occurs. And it is not a big, you don't need to put a fire to, burn all the things in front of you to believe that it is not there. You don't have to. You have to just look into the reality of them, then just understand that they don't exist. That's it. That's what happens when we graduate in this inquiry further. Because there will be so many examples given, so many concepts revealed, threadbare, which will help us see what the truth is. Question?
I had some sharing.
In
this context, I recently came across a particular wheel kind of a thing where they are trying to prove, like how she said, mind has that power, to think of that thought being there. It was a very relatable one that I could see and also relate. A person is being made to sit in front of the table, and his hands are placed on the table. So one hand, the left hand is placed on the table, and his right hand is placed on another side where there is a partition. So he can see his right hand from that partition on the other side, and a false hand is placed in between, in front of him, to show that there are two hands. So that perception of the two hands in front of him is being created. Now, you
can see. One minute. Let me just. Ramya wants to say something in this context, so let me just. Panta?
No.
Oh. No, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, Hari Om. So I recently had come across this reel. I don't know how much you heard me from there. So a person, the power of mind, kind of it shows. A person is being made to sit in front of the desk, like how Bhaskar is sitting, and there's a table right in front of him. So he sits with, his hands placed on the table. One hand is placed on the table. The left hand, say for example, is placed on the table. The right hand, there is a partition here, and the right hand is placed away from him. So there is a false hand that is placed in front of him instead of the right hand. So these two are the hands that are visible to him. He is told that this is a false hand. I'm not going to hurt you. Nothing is going to happen. Your real hand is away on the other side, and you can see all three from your end. So the person who's sitting agrees and assimilates whatever is happening, and he knows what is there. So over a period of time, how this mental game comes about is this false hand and the other hand which is on the other side. So both the hands are touched with a ruler at the same time to say that this is your index finger, this is your middle finger, your ring finger. So that perception is created, and this person starts feeling it in the mind. So every time he starts feeling it, and he says, "Yes, I can feel it is real." The moment the false hand is touched, the thumb is touched, he starts moving the real hand on the right side. So he said, "Yes, I can feel it. I can feel it." So every time he assumes that this hand is this hand is the real one. So finally, at a point where a hammer is brought in, and the hammer is, that person comes to hit this hand, this guy screams and throws everything out. So, but again, the person who is conducting this experiment says, "Boss, I've already told you this hand is not real." Your hand is safe, you're absolutely safe. There's nothing that has happened. It's all, everything has been created in your mind. So mind is so powerful, kind of. So, it can create a complete thing in front of you, which is not real. So this example is something that I remembered. I don't know how we'll connect and...
Okay. Yeah, okay. No, thanks for sharing, Ramya. So the way I connect to this is, conditioning. Conditioning is very, very important as a concept. So we are conditioned to behave in a particular way set up by our mind. This conditioning is the default setting, the way things work. Normally, the way we react will always be through this conditioning only. So mind normally continues to do this actually. That's where, the default default perception is all based on that. So Viveka has to be brought in to understand that, yes, there is something wrong in the basic understanding. So one has to correct the understanding. So that's where the openness has to be brought in. That's where the concept of Shraddha, that's where the concept of Viveka comes in, followed by Vairagya and Shamodama Paramastitiksha. Thanks for sharing that. Good. I don't see, I can see people probably in trance. So this will happen. So don't worry. During Maya discussion, it has to have some impact of Maya at least, so it will be there. So not to worry, and we will proceed further. And as we proceed further, I would request everyone to read things right from start till the current verse every time, so that cumulatively some of those concepts which, if at all missed in any of the earlier ones, you can catch up with them, because each concept is a building block. And if we do not understand it, that can be a block in terms of proceeding further. So revisit the verses, write down queries, and you can always text me also, or you can ask in any of the sessions, so that don't leave any doubt. Don't leave any doubt. This is a pursuit of knowledge, and in the pursuit of knowledge, the ultimate thing is never achieved unless the last doubt goes off. So you have a package of doubts, and some more doubts get created when we have discussions. Initial doubt as well as the created doubts, incremental doubts, all these have to be killed, annihilated, wherein you just have only knowledge. So that's where we have to proceed, and it's only through vichara that this can happen. And while doing vichara, one has to understand the first ingredient, where sadhana chatushtaya has to be in place, because sadhana chatushtaya is the one which can purify mind, and we need a very, very strong and brilliant and kind of a ignited mind for this inquiry. Because Maya being what it is, to overcome Maya, one has to graduate to that level. I mean, if you have to face A bottom, you have to be some kind of a batsman. Otherwise, you can't just go and face A bottom. If one says that, no, I can just hit 6 of A bottom, maybe I want to kill Maya, you have to graduate yourself to that level to even face A bottom. Only then you can even talk about, hitting a 6 or even defending the ball. So it's very important that we graduate to that level. Our mind has to be ignited to such a level that it can just capture the concepts very easily as revealed by Shastra. Because Shastra is coming from that level of, requirement of mind's purity. So basically mind's purity is achieved through the sadhana chatushtaya, and definitely that is gross. Each of you can experience that. When you follow sadhana chatushtaya, the clarity you get of mind is amazing. That is for sure. It's a first-hand experience that I can definitely share with you. So with this, if we don't have any more questions, then we will chant the closing. Narenji, please.
I didn't have a question, but I just had an observation.
Yeah, please.
10th man experiment doesn't seem practical. See,
Okay.
this snake and rope thing is possible, but 10th man not counting himself, it's a bit strange.
Normally yes, it's given for an example, but many time, for example, okay, the way you have to show, I think further it will come in one of the verses also, how the same person being misunderstood is kind of created. For example, not with the self, like when you introduce a friend, okay, for example, A, B, C are school friends. They meet after 30 years. A has already, connected with B, so he knows that he is his classmate. But now C is introduced. C happens to be with them, and A is asking, "Do you understand? Do you know B? Can you recognize?" He says, "No, I don't know." That is ignorance, not about self, about another guy. Instead of an example. But when this gentleman says that, don't you remember we studied in this school and in this class, this was the name. I mean, name was revealed earlier also, but looking at the person, he said, "No, I don't relate." So when he says that, okay, in this school, in this year we studied and he was our classmate. The moment this is told to see, oh, yeah, I know. So that's the recollection, okay? In this case, what has happened is the person in front of him has not changed. And the earlier knowledge that, okay, he was the same person remains intact. The person in front of him changed. It is only that the lack of understanding has changed. Person has not at all changed. Object in front of us has not changed. So the knowledge of our object, the knowledge of object in front of us is only limited to the extent of our own perceptions and inference actually. So in that example, minus anything else, only a statement that, oh, don't you remember this guy, the same guy. So the same Tattvamasi and Aham Brahmasmi is the same thing actually. We do not recollect ourselves to be a new guy now. Oh, whatever I was, it is the same thing now. So I have not undergone any change. That's what comes later actually when you inquire. So that's the reason it becomes very easy. Yes, in the example of that 10th man, normally one has to count himself as well. We will not miss it out. But I think many a times such mistakes also happen. Maybe even from Shastra, we can give maybe some quotes also. It will be there. I don't know how many of you would have done this actually. You have towel on yourself and then you search for it. Many a times you have watch in your pocket and you search watch outside. Or mobile in your pocket and then you search the mobile outside, you will never get it actually. This happens to many. Many of us would have experienced that, where you keep the thing just right with you, and that's the worst thing. Huh? You keep it, and that's the best thing that can happen in terms of avarana and vikshepa. Just keep it with you. Keep searching. You will never get it. Never, unless someone points out saying, "Hey, you are searching that, and that's in your pocket." In fact, this example, these were one of the 4 examples which was given in my first Chinmaya Yogakendra class. Where one of the example given was this, actually saying you have your scooter key in your pocket and in the keychain even it is visible outside, but you are just going around searching. And your daughter or son comes and saying, "What are you searching?" "I'm searching my scooter key." And he says, "No, it is there in your pocket. It was behind, so you didn't know, but it was with him." So it is as simple as that. Self-knowledge is as simple as that. And Shastra is just pointing out, boss, you are that actually. When you are looking for that Nityavasti Vekam Brahma, you are that. So that's what it is bringing as a concept later. And to some extent, the nearest thing is kind of lost even on a day-to-day basis. We feel this. And it is very much a gross perception that you have the thing with you and you are searching it. Luckily, we have such examples also. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to relate to some of these concepts. Luckily, we have those examples also. Good. We'll chant Purnamada. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. We'll meet in the next session.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Bhaskarji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Bhaskar.
Hari.